This episode is brought to you by CuriosityStream. Sign up using the promo code Dwayne's Aviation or the link in the description. You will save 25% off. In this day and age, the importance of marketing cannot be underestimated, and companies have understood that innovating their marketing strategies is as important as the innovations incorporated in their products. This is why companies seek to be more and more creative when promoting their brands, not only highlighting the features and benefits of their products, but also playing with surrealism and sometimes even making a bit of fun of their creations, just to draw attention to them. Some people believe that those that can afford planes don't sit in front of the TV or social media, but in reality, those that influence their decisions do. So it is more possible to sell a bad product with good marketing than it is to sell an excellent product with a not-so-good marketing job. And as women are much more powerful and influential today than in the 50s and 60s, the importance of paying great attention to the wife acceptance factor is crucial. It can in fact make or break a design. In this modern age where innovations in aviation is at its peak, and there is not much you can do to stand out in the general aviation industry, is marketing more important than innovation? If you look at the Icon aircraft sites, the first thing you will see is the Icon A5 reinvents recreational aviation and lets you bring the exhilaration of flight to life like never before. Sport flying with the A5 is tailored to pilots who primarily fly for recreation, easy to fly, lightweights, and low operating costs. Quite an interesting sales pitch. Icon Aircraft took everything that wasn't aviation-like and made it aviation-like. Looking into this plane, the automobile-inspired dashboard has some appeal going on. Icon did not exactly target aviators when marketing this product. They pitched it to anyone that could afford it, more like trying to create a niche out of nothing. The A5 isn't particularly impressive in terms of performance. Almost every two-seat amphibian outperforms it, and the Cirrus offers significantly better performance for a fraction of the price. The need to perfect your product, like your marketing strategy, is a lesson Icon learned the hard way. Because behind this facade is a product full of unsorted issues and a management board full of confusion. Series of crashes riddled the design, and in retrospect, the company boasted that a large percentage of its depositors were people who didn't yet hold pilot certificates. And since the Icon A5 is a light sport aircraft, they needed to obtain only sport pilot certificates, which require half as much flying time as private pilot certificates. Those who anticipated a tragic mix of inexperienced pilots flying on and off the water in the unforgiving, highly dynamic, low-altitude environment were quick to pile on and say they told us so. But a closer look at Icon accidents shows the truth isn't so tidy. In fact, low-time sport pilots are yet to be involved in a single Icon accident. Instead, it's high-time experienced pilots, many with advanced ratings. The first high-profile Icon mishap took place in April 2017 in Key Largo, Florida, when a former fighter pilot hit the water with enough impact to crack the airplane's composite hull. A few months later, Roy Halladay followed, then the plane's designer and main test pilot. These crashes dealt a huge blow to the company. The initial idea of changing general aviation by building a far more accessible, entry-level aircraft that would appeal to pilots and non-pilots alike had been abandoned, which was initially a crucial component of the company's presentation. Icon Aircraft, which first appeared on the scene with the premise of a tiny little sport plane with great amphibious possibilities and low-cost innovation for less than $140,000, had turned into a litany of failed promises. All kinds of marketing hype and deception, very restricted availability, and a price that was 2 to practically 3 times more than what was first envisioned all contributed to the overall negative experience. Icon Aircraft advised clients in 2017 who had put a deposit on the A5 that the price for the aircraft to be delivered in 2018 had risen by 50% to a total of $389,000 for a fully fitted version. This incorporates retractable landing gear and other amenities that won't be available on the standard model, which will cost $269,000. Evidence of what may be a tenuous financial position for the company was indicated with Icon's pronouncement that all of the 2018 aircraft scheduled for production would consist of the costly, fully loaded versions, and base models will not be delivered until 2019 at the earliest. Moreover, the company had a backlog of orders and was plagued by production delays. The purchaser's agreement for the Icon A5 was made public in April 2016. It immediately drew widespread criticism for including several contentious provisions not typically seen in aircraft purchase agreements. These included pilot training and maintenance that was legally mandated, agreements not to sue, the necessity for factory airframe overhauls every 2,000 hours or 10 years, whichever came first, and a restriction on the life of the aircraft of 6,000 hours or 30 years, whichever came first. In addition, every aircraft would be fitted with a camera and recorder to monitor the pilots. The manufacturer would own these components, but the owner would be responsible for their upkeep. Owners were compelled to sign an agreement stating that they would be supportive of Icon aircraft, and any new owners would have to sign the same deal or face fines. It is generally agreed upon that Icon was a program with a bleak outlook, that it had been grossly mismanaged, and that the company had been dishonest throughout the entirety of the preceding decade, frequently relying on grandiose claims and aggressive marketing to make the company appear more capable than it has demonstrated to be. This is not an anomaly. New plane companies, especially those arising from Silicon Valley, always tend to overpromise. They think with a few innovations here and there, they could revolutionize aviation by changing the scale of airplane production, just like the founders of Eclipse Aerospace, who placed emphasis on the economies of scale, where the average cost per unit of a product decreases with the increase in production. The problem with this logic is that airplanes are hand-built, so production costs do not go down by increasing production, because to produce more, you need more of everything. Workers, factories, basically everything. So even if an unrealistic rate of 5,000 units were sold each year, it would not deliver economies of scale, and Eclipse Aviation learned this the hard way. It was costing the company twice as much to produce aircraft as they were selling them for. So the question is having a stable product better than having a strong marketing force? Every AvGeek is familiar with the Mooney M20. The M20's main competition is the Cirrus SR-22 and the Cessna TTX, which are slower, more expensive, and for some people, less sexy than Mooney's slick little retractable gear speedster. Well, not for me. But the Cirrus SR-22 outsold Mooney's by a factor of around 50 to 1. Why? In part, it's because Cirrus has a stable business profile, its marketing is super slick, its technology is top-notch, and it has the parachute, which a lot of pilots, and not just their spouses, are asking for these days. Did the M20, which is time-consuming to build, ever really have a chance against the SR-22? Of course, it didn't. Nothing exists in a vacuum, which is to say that Mooney's success will come from siphoning sales from Cirrus. How would the two look to a potential buyer if they were compared? The SR-22 carries more than the Mooney, but the M20 flies farther, faster, and burns less gas than the Cirrus, so performance-wise, that's a draw. Both designs are stable and great. The SR-22 looks much better because it's a much more recent design, but the biggest difference was made on the market. While Cirrus was busy pushing their sleek speedster on the marketing, Mooney kept their fingers crossed, believing the old-fashioned saying that those that can afford expensive machines are not behind the television. But the data proves them wrong. For example, the majority of my viewers are between the ages of 45 and 60. That's typically the range that can afford planes. If you search for the SR-22 on YouTube, Facebook, or Instagram, you will find over 1,000 videos. But if you search for the M20, you will see few videos. Even the newest line of the M20 is hard to find online. The major selling point of the SR-22 is the parachute, or the wife's factor. Mooney did not incorporate it because they believed that real pilots wouldn't pick up a parachute at the expense of useful load. So the SR-22 in most ways draw the match in performance, won in innovation. So did Mooney try to be cost competitive? No. Mooney rolled out the M20 for the same price that gets the SR-22. So think of this. You have $1 million to buy a plane. You see two options. Both are nearly the same price, but one is not only more elegant and modern, but it also has a parachute. And you can't go for the other one because it's much cheaper. Which one will you go for? The newest M20 Acclaim Ultra had a retail price of $800,000, but a 10-year-old M20 with almost identical performance could be found for sale for a third or a quarter of that value. So the decision for those who wanted a Mooney was clear. Go for a decade-old one. The last M20 wasn't only competing with Cirrus, but also with its predecessors. So that brings us to the question, is having a great product, a stable business model, and a great marketing force all it takes to succeed in the general aviation industry? The Cirrus SR-22 may be the leader of general aviation, but not for long. Well, they're not going to fall in a year or two, or in the next 5 years, but the downfall is looming. Engine technology is horribly outdated, and plane makers are sticking to this old technology with their hearts. The Continental engine that powers the SR-22 needs more technological advancement in fuel and ignition management. Most pilots are looking for something superior with simpler management that burns diesel and has a single lever control. However, getting rid of these old-fashioned engines is a challenging proposal, but it has been accomplished by Diamond Aircraft. The Thielert Centurion 4.0, a V8 Mercedes-Benz diesel engine also utilized in the S-Class, served as the foundation for this project from the beginning. Cirrus planned to test the engine on the SR-22, but because of the cost of re-engineering the aircraft to accommodate the greater gross weight, they dropped the project, citing that there is no significant improvement in performance that would justify the expenses. Do we need a quantum leap in performance to scrap the outdated engines on modern planes? The Centurion is significantly more smooth and straightforward than anything made by Continental or Lycoming. You want to get things going? Press the start button. Do you like to pick up the pace? It's as simple as pushing the throttle forward. The operation is optimized with a single lever control since there are no knobs or levers for adjusting the mixture or the prop. When starting your engine on a cold day, you just switch on the glow plugs for a few seconds before starting the engine. If one of the engines stops working while the aircraft is in flight, flip the switch, and it feeders itself. Everything is straightforward and uncomplicated. The IO 550 is a different story when it comes to starting up. You have to prime it, adjust the mixture, push the throttle a bit, and crank it. It may start immediately, but if it doesn't, you'll have to go through those steps again. When the engine reaches operating temperature, the throttle should be wide open. When it is cold, you need a furnace that can heat it for 15 minutes. Many hold the misconception that professional pilots do not need FADEC. However, only time will tell. I get that Cirrus is attempting to balance contemporary engineering, aesthetics, and safety. Nevertheless, $1 million aircraft with engine technology that's been around for half a century? That's not right. There is no serious competition in the industry, so customers continue to rush to purchase the SR-22. The Lancer Evolution piston with a FADEC-controlled Lycoming engine is a significant improvement over the SR-22, yet only a few pilots are interested in flying experimental aircraft. Textron has just acquired Pipistrel, indicating that the Pantera will be available shortly. Let's see what Textron comes up with for the design, shall we? FADEC, Jet A-burning GA planes, and everything will soon be a thing of the past because the way we fly is about to change. You can learn about the exciting future of aviation on CuriosityStream, a streaming service with thousands of full-length, high-quality documentaries, exclusive, award-winning films, and shows that you can't watch anywhere else. Plus, the deepest collection of the best documentaries from around the world, deeper than any other streaming service out there. Subscribe at curiositystream.com/Dwayne's Aviation, or simply scan the QR code, or use the promo code Dwayne's Aviation, and you will save 25% off. It's already one of the most affordable and best deals in streaming. If you're a curious person who loves to know more of everything, CuriosityStream is available to watch on all your favorite streaming devices worldwide. So what are you waiting for?